Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has promised to clear debts owed banks by next month. The assurance comes as government finalizes movement of state funds to the Bank of Ghana. My colleague George Afe has been speaking to the Finance Minister at the launch of the single Treasury account in Accra.
What we are doing in the first instance is to begin to pay some of the arrears, which are to various clients that they have, and hopefully that will help mitigate that. And so that's the key issue that we are doing right now. And then we are also expecting that once we also successfully launch the energy bond, that would also go to clear the energy arrears, which are important too. In terms of the payment that we are releasing them, as of the beginning of September, even a little earlier actually. Yeah.
Right, so that was the Finance Minister speak at the launch of the single Treasury account. Well, the Public Accounts Committee on Wednesday sought clarity on how the single Treasury account system would operate when the Ministry of Finance, along with the Controller and Accountant General's Department, took their turn to answer questions on the 2016 Auditor General's report.
The essence of this whole concept is that government at any point in time will want to be able to determine its financial or cash position. As of now, or before we even embark on this concept or this project, bank accounts, government accounts are lying in various commercial banks, and then the main consolidated fund is at the central bank. So anytime government wants to determine its cash position, it has to they'll be calling commercial bank, how much balances are you holding? Then we add up to get the government position. But the Treasury single account is going to create a level where at any point in time, government will be able to know its cash position or its financial position, because all the bank accounts, we are not going to put all in one account. All these, we're going to create a certain number of accounts. In fact, as we went through the whole program with the MDAs and the Bank of Ghana, every MDA is going to be allowed to open 4 bank accounts at the central bank. If hitherto you were keeping about, say, 10 accounts, 15 accounts, now we give you the power to open only 4 bank accounts at the central bank. And these 4 bank accounts will capture all the balances that are sitting in your accounts at the commercial bank. And then you still have your mandate to sign checks or to withdraw from these accounts at the central bank. The beauty of it is that when all these monies have been transferred, all these accounts have been transferred to the central bank, it gives the government a direct position that at any point in time, how much government holds as total position for the physical, we can just add up because the accounts are all at one bank.
Representative from the Finance Ministry also seized the opportunity to allay the fears of some commercial banks whose operations are believed to be affected by this move.
We have had a series of meetings with the banks, and so we are working with the banks. We wouldn't do anything that will have a negative impact on our banks because they really support this economy. So it's not going to be one-off, it's going to be done in stages. So we want to assure you that we are in talks with the banks and we share their concerns and everything, and we'll work together with them to see to it that as much as we want government funds to be in a single account, sort of, we also think of the impact it will have. So we are working together with them.
We'll still stay with the PAC sitting because the Ministry of Finance was questioned on the country's debt stock, which appears to be understated. The committee noted differences in the amount publicly quoted by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and what was contained in the 2016 Auditor General's report on Ghana's debt.
What happens with the debt recording is that we have a system that records the debt as information becomes available. And what we record as debt is not what we have signed up to borrow, but what projects have disbursed. So at the time of the accounts that controller prepares on 31st March, information that is available and recorded in our debt management system would agree with what controller records on 31st March. By the time the audit is done on 30th June, if the debt management system has additional information that shows that at 31st December, some disbursements were effected, they will go ahead and update their system as at 31st December. But for the purpose of the financial statement, it can only be a restatement of the balance at 31st, because they would have prepared the accounts at 31st March when that information was not available either to controller or to the debt management division. So it is only information that became available. Let me give an example. If we are doing a project, that is funded by a donor, we will send a disbursement request to the donor to pay a contractor who may be a foreign contractor. We will not know when the contractor has actually been paid until that disbursement is made and the information is sent back to us. And that sometimes takes time. So that is one major cause of the differences that you will see between what is recorded in the debt management division and what controller records. The beauty of it, however, is that at the end of the day, the two systems are reconciled and the debt stock is updated. So you'll notice that even when Ministry of Finance reports at a particular time, we always go back and update our numbers as and when information becomes available. Thank you very much.
Are you by this saying that we should accept this as a normal system?
In terms of if we go by the accounting standards, then what the Accountant General has reported is accurate, because at that time that was a position of disbursement. Statistically, that is not a figure, because some disbursement was actually done, except that you didn't have the information at the time of this.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just asking this simple question.
Okay, away from that to the power issues and power supply in the country would witness some significant improvement from next year. This is because a power distribution firm, Gridco, is hoping to complete upgrade of its substations across the country by that time. The move is expected to improve power supply in the country and cut waste when it comes to distribution. It would also help boost revenue for the power generating and distribution firms, which could help reduce utility tariffs in the coming months. William Amuna is Chief Executive of Gridco. He's been speaking to Joy Business.
Right now, Achimota is virtually new. Winneba is new. Cape Coast, Takoradi. We are currently working on Kumasi. We are working at the Pond Water Works, and a number of substations, all now being reconstructed. Now, we also have the alliance between Tema and Achimota, that's Accra. They are underrated. They were also constructed in 1965, and we are reconstructing all those lines. All such projects are ongoing now. Yeah.
But so for you, are you giving yourself any deadline that by this period we worked on majority of our machines, and that is going to impact on distribution to the final consumer? Yeah,
by third quarter 2018, many of these projects would have been completed, including the 330 kV line that goes to Boagatanga and continues to Ouagadougou. Yeah, virtually everything will be completed, and we should be in a good position to deliver power properly.
In terms of whatever backups that you have, whatever, is the outlook okay, or there are certain areas we still need to watch in terms of having adequate power to distribute it to ECG for the final consumer?
For now, I think we are covered. We are well covered, virtually every part of the country. And once there's enough generation, we should be okay. And currently, we have even more than enough generation in the system.
What do you tell those who said that we've always had this thing before, but we have some blips which are very serious?
Well, occasionally, I mean, the power system is one that can fail at any time anyway, because we are working with machines, and the machines, you cannot always be 100% sure. But what we do is to build in some redundancy into the system. For instance, in Achimota, we just added a brand new transformer. So now we have more than enough transformers over there. If you lose one, you can get onto the rest of them. And that is what we are doing. We are now building redundancies into the system.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Energy, Boakye Ejiako, earlier today inaugurated an 8-member committee of ECG headed by Kelly Gajapo. Addressing the newly sworn-in board, Mr. Ejiako revealed that the assets of ECG will be leased to a private investor to operate and invest in for 20 years. He has also charged the board to immediately work towards the success of the private sector participation transaction.
There are very urgent issues that the board must tackle immediately after your inauguration of today. Under the concession arrangement, the assets of ECG will be leased to a private investor to manage, operate, and invest in for a period of 20 years. ECG will still remain the asset owner on behalf of the government of Ghana. The concessionaire is expected to pay for the use of ECG's assets. It is therefore imperative that ECG updates and hands over a credible list of assets to the concessionaire. A project is currently underway for a technical and condition assessment of ECG's assets. The timely completion of this project is very crucial to the success of the PSP transaction. I urge the board to give it your maximum attention. The PSP transaction envisages that ECG will be an active asset owner. The board must ensure that the final request for proposal and all complementary documents adequately provide for ECG to play an effective and efficient monitoring role. You must take keen interest in the entire PSP transaction process and ensure that what will remain of ECG is reorganized into a viable company capable of performing its active oversight role for the benefit of our dear country.
Well, the same event witnessed the swearing-in of a 7-member investigative committee on the Boss Offspec saga headed by Lawrence Dakwa. The minister charged the committee to, within a month, submit the findings into other things, determine the circumstances that created the Offspec product, determine if the product can be corrected, if not, determine the alternative use of the product and submit an advice to the ministry on the necessary technical, administrative and legal actions to be taken.
We wish to assure the general public that the ministry is determined to ensure that the integrity of petroleum products supply in the country is protected. In view of this, the ministry has constituted a committee to look into the matter. The terms of reference for the committee include but not limited to the following. 1. Determine the circumstances that created the off-spec products. 2. Review the procedures undertaken by BOST to evacuate the product. 3. Ascertain the quality and remaining quantity of the product. 4. Determine if the product can be corrected. If not, determine the alternative uses of the product. And 5. Review the transaction. The committee is expected to advise the ministry on the necessary technical, administrative, and legal actions to be taken.
Away from power, government has been challenged to establish an independent body to promote transparency and accountability in the management of mining revenues in Ghana. A 2017 Resource Governance Index report ranked Ghana's mining sector 24th out of 89 countries assessed, while Ghana's young oil and gas industry placed 13th out of 89. It was the best performing industry in sub-Saharan Africa. Government revenue from mining has declined, beating proceeds from the oil and gas industry despite the over 100 years track record in mining. This resulted in the need for the body like PIAC to oversee revenues generated in the sector. Prince Apia has more in this report.
A 2017 Resource Governance Index report ranked Ghana's mining sector 24 out of 89 countries assessed. Mining scored 37 out of 100 points, whilst oil and gas rated 65 out of 100 points in revenue management. Kwame Jantua, who is Vice Chairman of Public Interest and Accountability Committee, believes challenges in the sector could be addressed if an oversight body is in place.
Very well with mining. So we need to now look at mining strongly. And if we even have to start with a PIAC, Revenue Management Act, Exploration Act for mining, to bring it back to where oil and gas is, would be fantastic. Key things that PIAC has been able to do for the oil and gas sector is the fact that it started with the sector. From the onset of the sector, PIAC was also birthed. So all the steps that the oil industry has taken, PIAC has taken the same. With the mining industry, it's different. 100 years of mining. We do not have the wherewithal and the capacity to do it. And so if we're going to do that, you would need a PIAC of mining technical people. Yes, we can share notes. Even today, you find that some of the things that have happened in the mining industry, we haven't learned in the oil industry. We're now gradually trying to share notes to see how best we can make the oil and gas industry 100%. But yes, we need to do that for the mining sector, because the mining sector gives Ghana a lot of revenue. And from the NDPC, looking at the kind of minerals we have in the ground today, if we don't get a good mining law in place, or good mining laws that would cover mining, it's going to be very difficult.
The passage of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act in 2011 has seen civil society organizations advocate a similar law for mining. Ghana's Petroleum Fund tops the Transparency and Accountability rankings, contributing to good revenue management score. Ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament, Mutawakilu, tells Lab Business a stronger law is requisite to address the issue.
Ghana, we call it the grey stage. You know, we've done gold for a very long time, and the laws are there. Other countries have taken our laws and improved upon them. And some of them are still emerging ones. They look more attractive to investors like Eritrea, Burkina Faso. They came to our place, take our laws, improve upon them to make them more attractive. That is where you see a shift a little. But I believe that in the long term, Ghana, we are not doing bad. But in terms of revenue, I think we need to set up and find another way of regulating the revenue from the mining sector. Because whatever is coming from the mining sector, that is royalty and taxes, go to the consolidated fund. And it's a general pool, so it's difficult to access. And I think that we should look at that side critically.
Prince Apia reporting.
Well, call it good news for the two banks which is said to be distressed, and you may not be wrong. This is because the Bank of Ghana is now insisting it has no plans of liquidating the two banks next month, not even as a last option. The following Business Desk report has more.
For some, the assurance from the central bank is interesting. This is because the said liquidation of these banks is one of the prior actions or requirements that the Bank of Ghana must work on before government can go to the board for its program review by August 30th. But the central bank has ruled out going this way. Head of Banking Supervision Raymond Amanfo tells Joy Business there are options on the table.
The minimum capital is just the floor, okay, and that is the starting block, the building block. You build on the minimum capital requirements, the various risks that you acquire, and whether you require capital. Now, what we are trying to do is to develop a standardized way of measuring the various risks in the various risk areas. And what we are starting with is Pillar 1. We are starting with the market risk, that is basically interest rate risk, exchange rate risk. We are looking at credit risks. How do we measure the risks of credits? Okay. Then we'll look at operational risks, that is risks associated to system failure, to fraud, human error and all those things.
The assurance from the central bank could come as big relief for depositors of these banks. This is because initial reports of possible liquidation resulted in closure of some accounts of these banks. According to the central bank, some of the initial 9 distressed banks made progress in recapitalizing. In a related development, the Ghana Association of Bankers says it would sanction any action adopted by the central bank to deal with these financial institutions said to be in financial distress. Al-Hassan Andane is president of the association.
If we're looking at the general industry, yes, the industry is ready. A significant part of the industry is ready. Yes, there may be 1 or 2 banks that will require new shareholders or require to inject new capital. Now, to the extent that, again, the niche markets that they have chosen to operate in remain profitable, they will get the requisite capital. But as an industry, if we look at if we were to take the 2080 rule, 20% of the industry players who control about 80% of the capital are ready.
The president of the association has also indicated that they are satisfied with plans to possibly increase the minimum capital requirement for banks by next month and introduction of risk-based capital from next year. However, Joy Business understands that there could come some drastic action taken by the Bank of Ghana in the coming days.
You're watching Business Live. Quick break. We'll be back with our interview of the day. Welcome back now to our interview of the day. And U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Robert Jackson, is warning of a possible decline in foreign direct investments, especially from his country, by the end of the year if bribery and corruption in the public sector is not dealt with by government. Government is advancing moves to establish a special prosecutor's office to curb the phenomenon. Ambassador Jackson, however, believes government needs to do more before the menace takes a toll on the economy.
Interview of the day.
I believe that President Akufo-Addo and his government are committed to changes. They've made a lot of encouraging statements. The special prosecutor bill has finally been introduced. Right to education, right to information bill has been in and out of Parliament. If those acts are passed and if we see greater emphasis on making certain that investment processes, land titling, things that are related to investment move quickly, I think you will see a great uptick in investment here. But it's a competitive environment. Ghana cannot just do things and expect everyone else around it to stand still. One of the reasons that Ghana's investment ranking has declined in the World Bank's doing business indicators is not only because Ghana's not been doing anything, it's because other countries have been moving faster. Ghana needs to catch up and get ahead.
Catch up and get ahead. In that case, you'll still have your businesses, American businesses here working. How are they dealing with it? Does it mean that they're paying their way through as well?
American businesses, by U.S. law, are not allowed to pay bribes or facilitation fees. They can lose substantial assets, face prison in the United States if they are found to have paid bribes. What I find American companies do as a result, if they're worried about it, is go to other markets. But the world is a competitive place. You go where you see the greatest opportunity. That said, in my 18 months here, we've had 9 American companies invest here. There's clear interest. There will be more interest if the government helps to get the environment right.
Interview of the day.
And you can always catch up on all our stories on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. That's Business Live today. My name is Daryl Kwao. I'll see you tomorrow.